What up, everybody? Kingdomhood Conversation, Richard Harrison, and I am back for another week. I have a guest, Ron. He might join later on. He was tied up in traffic, so he'll probably, jump in whenever he gets a chance. But hey, I got a kind of a hot show today. I'd say that every week, that I got a, somewhat of a hot show, so somewhat some interesting topics to talk about. Today we're going to go over Pfizer, supposed to be hitting the market with a vaccine, I think this weekend. Want to talk, about executions that the death penalty and executions that went through, and 4 more that are lined up before Trump leaves office, and kind of talk about that interplay, the complex interplay between the death penalty and the Christian right. Christians talk about, Republicans are pro-life until it comes to the death penalty. So we're going to kind of look at that and kind of a little bit of in detail. Also, I want to talk about things that Trump can do or that is doing before he leave office that could cause a lot of trouble. Trump is this, narcissist, egotistical maniac. And when people like that face defeat and still have opportunity to use power to their advantage, they can do just so. And unfortunately, as a president, you have a lot of power that you can do a lot of destruction. So we're going to talk about those shows today on the Kingdomhood Conversation. And my name is Richard Harrison. And so I want to get right into it, guys. I hope you guys are staying safe. I know we are really raging out of control with the coronavirus. And, California and Texas has been really hit hard. California, they put us, closed us back down. And, a lot of people are complaining. But to me, it doesn't really seem any different. All they did was close, prior to what was going on before, they closed outside dining. Well, shit, I ain't standing outside in the cold eating no food anyway. I would get mine to go and bring it home. So it's really not a big deal any more than California already was locked down. So I don't really know what people are complaining about. I know the restaurants have a problem because, of course, that's a profit center. Being down have outside dining. But, look, if people love your food, they're going to come get it to go. I know restaurants who are doing really well and taking orders hand over fist for people to get their orders and go on back home. Now, as far as outside dining, I don't really know how much it would hurt the restaurant as long as the restaurant's allowed to stay open. It would. What it would do is it would impact I guess waitresses, because so that's one job that's going to be impacted. But besides that, everything's pretty normal, in California. So anyway, and look, the people are complaining about he's shutting down too much, and look, we are facing definitely a lot of debt. California's gonna have a lot of physical problems once this thing opens back up. I think we're looking at around 40 billion or maybe even more in debt behind the closures. And the government, what they kind of had like an 8% threshold. So when they see the cases get over 8%, then they have to scale back down. I think we were getting, with hospital capacities, the number of cases and the number of deaths. When that starts to rise, they scale back. So I don't know how this is going to play out too well for Gavin Newsom. Some people say he's too strict, and but and some people say it's he's doing the right thing because of COVID. And at some point, you have to put life over business. Now, here's another example. You got Texas, that is second to us in COVID cases, that's not shutting down at all because all the Republicans care about is money. And and they're getting the business. But we have to look at California is much more heavier populated than Texas. Texas is more spread out. So even though they're less populated than us, they're right neck and neck at us with cases. So I don't know. The Republicans feel nothing should be shut down, and Democrats feel things should be shut down. So there we go. We're putting politics into people's life. That's just the way it is, in this country. Look, before I get into my subjects, I also want to talk about COVID relief bill. Now we know Donald Trump don't give a shit about COVID relief bill for America, because he ain't said one word about it. He's sitting up here being a pansy about the election and about pardoning people and so forth and so on, that we'll cover a little bit more later on. But you got Mitch McConnell that says, okay, I'm not going to allow anything to pass unless we get absolutely protection for the corporations. I mean, they have zero liability as far as being sued. This is why the Georgia race is so important with Warnock and Ossoff, because that'll give us a 50-50 tie in the Senate. Now, for those of you who don't know, on a vote, when there's a 50-50 tie in the Senate, then the deciding vote is the vice president. So, yeah, so, so we got to get those Senate seats. We have got to get those Senate seats. That is so important, so we can get these bill passes. Look, there are 400 bills sitting at the seat of the Senate, sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk, that for help African Americans, jobs, health care, overturning mass incarceration, police reform. It goes on and on and on, that the Republicans won't even look at. Yeah, the Republicans won't even give it a shot because they're just about blocking stuff. That's what they do. I mean, it's easy to say, like, okay, look, what are the Democrats doing, for America? That's your argument. And of course they need to do more. But when you look at policy, you're looking at the Republicans are the ones that are blocking everything. So, you have to look at that, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Freedom Party, wherever you are. You got one party that's passing stuff and one party that's blocking it, especially, which is endeared to any black man or brown man, is overturning mass incarceration. Well, Biden and Obama tried to overturn mass incarceration, and Mitch McConnell, Republicans, blocked it. They won't even hear the Democrats' police reform bill, which I talked about on this program several months ago. This is why that Senate race, all eyes are on Georgia, because we'll be able to get things passed that helps people of color. Well, you can look at it and say, well, why aren't the Republicans are, because you got, black Republicans. Well, the simple question is what have the Republicans passed to help, blacks, Hispanics, gays, illegal immigrants, or undocumented workers, I should say, middle class poor, in the last 50 years. I mean, I'll wait. I got my watch on. But I'll wait. Send me a message. You can't name one policy that the Republican, that's why I understand how people support Republican Party and talk about they're the better party as black folks, when they have not, or middle class. Well, it gives me not just black folks, but it gives me the middle class that supports Republicans. Now, of course, there are certain ideas and things that they like about the Republican Party, I believe, because, my son's a Republican. We got into a real intense conversation, and I'm going to have Marcus on the show next week to talk about his aspects of, as a Christian man, why he votes Republican and thinks, the Democrats are the Antichrist and things like that. That's his position, and that's good, because even though, I raised a son to be a free thinker, so hey, he has his own position, and that's fine. That's totally okay. But if you have not passed one policy that was Republican written, Republican passed, signed into law about a Republican, and you can't name one in the last 50 years to help the middle class. If you're in the middle or poor class, I don't understand how the Republican Party works for you. Now, if you're rich in corporations, 100% vote Republican. I totally get it. But in the middle and class and working poor, all their policies are against you. So I don't understand that. But anyway, people have their own perspective and their own way of voting, and that's just totally okay. But yeah, so that's why all eyes are on Georgia. We've got to get Georgia. We've got to get stuff done. My thing is give the Democrats a chance, and see what happens. If you do your research, you'll see that under a Democratic leadership, the economy always does better. Now, some would argue that, under a Republican president, the stock market has done better. But even that's not an argument, because they can't compare Democrats. But you can say, like, under Trump, the stock market has done fairly well under Trump. Okay. Under Reagan, the stock market did fairly well. But here's the deal. 90% of Black folks in the middle class, and definitely the poor and working poor, are not in the stock market. They're not buying and trading stocks, futures, swaps. They're not in the stock market. So it really has no bearing on their pocketbook economy. You got people at that level, they're going to work and they need a check in their hand to pay bills. So the stock market doesn't have anything to do with that, unless you're a stock market guy. Okay. So anyway, just something to keep in mind. All eyes on Georgia. Okay. So Pfizer, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Pfizer is getting approval for, I'm going to go ahead. Hold on a second. Let me put this up. I'm going to go share my screen with you guys. Pfizer is getting approval for a vaccine. So go ahead and share this. You guys see my screen now? Okay, look, they're getting approval for a vaccine. So here's the deal. They had a panel. You can read this Yahoo article. There's plenty of articles that talk about this. But they had a panel. The majority of the panel voted to grant Pfizer an emergency approval to get the virus out. Then it has to go through the FDA administration has to approve it. Then it goes to the CDC, and if they pass it, then, and that's supposed to happen today, then it hits the market. Well, what they're saying is they can get 2.9 million doses out by the end of the year. And then by the end of the year, they can get out 50 million doses, which will vaccinate 25 million people by the end of this year. Okay. So that's great news for some. And here's an article. You guys can read it when you get a chance. I think that at some point we're all going to have to get vaccinated. Trump is really pushing Pfizer, which is scary. I think he owns stock or has some business dealing with Pfizer. So that puts a damper on it. But at some point, we're going to have to get vaccinated. There are other companies like biotech, AstraZeneca, other companies that are coming out with a vaccination. I think Moderna is next in line to get their emergency approval, which will be out by the end of the year. So there will be options to get it. But I just be glad when we have a safe, proven, effective way to vaccinate. And and then once that's done, we will be considered safe. Okay. And be able to, have a normal life here. I mean, just get back to normal. And I know that, a lot of people are really tired of this COVID thing and really tired of staying in the house, but we just got to hang in there. We just got to hang in there and I'm saying this over and over again, just hang in there for this last stretch. And I think that we can come out of this thing, definitely on the other end. And we, for sure, we can get through this by summer. And look, like I said on my last week's show, this is the time for you to, for you. Somebody asked me, am I taking it? No. Yeah, the answer to that is no. Gabriel asked me, Shaw, am I taking it? And the answer is no, not at this point. I mean, because look, and thank you for that question. Because look, at the end of the day, I want to know, what were the trials? How many trials were done on African Americans? How many actually received the actual vaccine, and how many received the placebo? What were the side effects? If you just do, do you have to get vaccinated once a year, once every 6 months? You have to take 2 shots. So if you get 1 shot and don't get the other shot, then what happens? So there's some questions I have. And look, there is a history of mistrust and tension between the medical community and the African American community. There's simple research you can do. You can look up the Tuskegee experiment, where they injected black people with syphilis, and just pretty much just watched. Some of them went blind, some of them went crazy, some of them died, and they experimented with black bodies because they wanted to see how syphilis would just permeate or damage the body and see the long-term effect of it, and didn't tell them they were injecting them with syphilis. So because of that, of course, there's always a mistrust. And there's a book called The Medical Apartheid that I think everybody should read. It's called The Medical Apartheid. And this book talks about, I've done like extensive research on slavery and Jim Crow and all that type of stuff, transatlantic slave trade and all that stuff. But through all this time in my life, I never really thought about medical advancements. And you have to, in the 17th and 18th century, medical advancements wasn't even advancement. They were pretty primitive, especially when it comes to surgery. So because there were no x-rays, there was no anesthesia, there was no sterilization. It was just, they just had to find people to test with. Well, guess what? They wasn't going to test on poor Johnny or Sally. So they got, a black slave, the doctors would buy slaves from the slave masters, of course. And they would buy some that were sick with certain illnesses. And, it was too expensive for the slave master to actually keep the slave. Because look, slave was about money. You were a body that produced money for white folks in the country. If you couldn't do that, you were useless. So they'd actually sell those slaves, and some young ones too, to doctors. Doctors would do surgery on them with them awake. I mean, literally, cut them open. They would tie them down, or they'd have 4 or 5 people restraining them, and they would cut slaves open and do surgery while they were awake. And then they didn't really know how to stitch them up because it had not been perfected. And so they would just leave the wounds open. So not only did they go through all this pain, then they end up dying of infection because you have to, sterilize it and everything like that. There was no sterilization. And this went on throughout the 17th and 18th century. And I think I believe it was around 1850, 1865, don't quote me, they finally invented anesthesia. Well, even though the doctors knew they invented anesthesia, they didn't use it on the slaves because you wasting, this stuff costs money. So there's a history of this, of torture. All the gynecological advancements that women, I wouldn't say enjoy, but that are for women today, they tortured Aquanetta or Keisha to save Sally. They would literally do all, when you women go get your pap smears, whatever you call those things. Well, all those, they experiment on black women slaves to understand how to work inside of a woman. With no anesthesia, they would just cut in there with knives and just, okay? So we have a history of this stuff. And I didn't mean to get graphic, but I'm just simply saying this is the reality of it. Yeah, this is really the reality of why there is pause when it comes between African Americans trusting the medical community, trusting them or not, because there's just a history of that's not good. And there's also, even today, there's a disparity within the health industry where you got somebody in the inner city that doesn't receive as good health as somebody in the suburbs. So there's all this stuff going on there. So I went on a really elongated answer of why I'm concerned, but eventually I will. But I want to see what happens first. But yeah, eventually I will, but not no time soon. Not definitely not by the end of this year. That's what I won't be doing. So yeah. So that's my answer. That's my answer. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So that's it with that, guys. All right. So let's look at, and I kind of want to bring this up because my son and I were talking about this. And there's this huge debate going back and forth between Republicans and Democrats about pro-life or pro-choice. Okay, you guys know this argument. This is not this is really nothing new. And me and my son were kind of talking about this because he was like really emotional about it, and he was saying that I can't support a party who is okay with killing babies. Okay, and he said that just goes against God's will because he's a Christian. And that's great. I think that's good. Now me, I'm not a Bible toting man who wants to hit people over the head with Bible every time they. I grew up Christian, like my son, my mom, my grandmother. Let me tell you something. Some of the meanest people I ever met were Christians. Some of those backstabbing people I've ever met were Christians. Hey, look, my grandma used to go to church every Sunday and come home and cuss my granddaddy out. I said, Grandma, didn't you just do praising God? Shut up, boy. So it was confusing growing up about Christianity because I didn't really see how it advanced Black folks. I mean, they claim to be Christians, but they still dealing with the same old nonsense as the people who weren't Christians. So there was really that confusion there. Not that Christianity is bad, but Christianity is the most widely Christian faith in the world. And Christianity has also been the most violent faith out of all the other religions. Christians have killed more people than any other faith known to man. Christians have been doing a whole lot of killing. Okay. So, hey, look, I believe in spirituality. I'm not a religious guy. I believe in I believe having a walk with God. But anyway, right. So yeah, I mean, so pro-choice means you're free. I agree with that. But see, here's what the Republicans are saying. Here's what the Republicans are saying. This is what my son was talking about. And then I'm gonna tie this into where I'm going with life or death and the death penalty and things like that. But I just want to start here. Okay, so and I was telling my son this is that which no Christian can argue. I mean, they can try, but hey, I may not speak Christianese. I don't have a PhD in bibliology, by biblical science, theology, but I do know this, is that God is a God of free will. And I was telling my son this. He couldn't argue with me. I mean, he's like, yeah, you're right. Oh, I know I'm right. We serve a God and here's where the Democrats are saying in regards to pro-choice or God of free will. Now, I told my son that we saw a pro-choice God. He said, well, why would you say that? Because if someone was trying to be a Christian and you said pro-choice, what would they think about? And I said, he's right. They would probably think of abortion. Okay, so I'll say free will. Okay, that's semantics. It means the same thing. But okay, so just for the sake of everybody, we serve a free will God. And here's what I was telling my son. Here's an example. He's going to come on the show next week and we'll talk more about this. Just you guys got to tune in. But let's start from the beginning. God gave Adam and Eve dominion over the whole world at that time. Right? He gave them dominion over everything. He gave women more control over their bodies. They didn't have pains and menstrual cycles and all that stuff. He gave Adam dominion over all the animals. He didn't worry about getting attacked by a tiger, bit by a snake, or anything. They were all there for his feeding. They were all subject to him. Well, Eve they say it was deceived. Whether she deceived or not, not the point of this conversation. But she ate of the fruit of the tree. Now here's the question. Did Eve have free will to eat the fruit, or was she forced to? God told Adam and Eve not to eat from the tree of good and evil. But Eve was able to have free will to eat what she wanted, and she ate from the tree. That's free will. From the beginning, God was free will. God told Pharaoh to let my people go. God didn't make Pharaoh let his people go. He told him, let his people go. And what did Pharaoh do? Pharaoh refused. Pharaoh refused. And did what he wanted to do. There's free will. God gave us the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet another man's wife. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not bear false witness. And all these other things he gave us. So what do you have to do? He had to bring his only begotten son to die for our sins. Why? Because we had the free will and the choice not to follow the 10 commandments. Now, I believe that God gave us the 10 commandments not for us to follow, but to prove that we couldn't. That's what I always believe. So it's free. So we had a God of free will. All right. Paul killed Christians. Okay. Paul didn't make God stop. Well, he did blind him, although he's on his way to I forgot the name of the city he was on his way to kill more Christians. And God blinded him and stopped him and got his attention and, changed his ways. Before then, Paul was one of the most prolific writers in the New Testament, was the killer of Christians. God didn't stop him. God allowed him to kill all the Christians he killed. He's not choice. Look, you bring it further. Through 256 years of slavery, these people claim to be Christians, and God allowed them to do what they want to do. He allowed Jim Crow. He allowed the KKK to lynch 7,000 black people and take selfies. He allowed picnics, which means pick a nigga, which means you can go pick up a nigga and hang him from a tree, and the white people have a picnic. He allowed the bombing of Rosewood. He allowed the bombing of Tulsa. He allowed let's bring it forward a little bit. He allowed the fact that the cops killed 1,099 people last year, and they have averaged over 1,000 killings a year over the last 6 years. God allowed that. God allowed people to mass murder people. So I can go on and on and on and on and on. I'll stop there. My thing is God is of pro-choice or free will, whatever makes you guys feel better. He allows you to choose your decision. If you want to go out and rob a bank, God is going to allow you. You want to go out and murder 7 people, God is going to allow you to do it. You want to go beat somebody up, you want to go steal, whatever you want to do, God is going to allow you to do it. Now, you're going to have to pay for that. You're going to have to pay for that. But God's going to allow you to do it. He allows us to make our own decision. What the Democrats are saying is, it's your right, it's the woman's right to choose. It's her body. Let her choose. That's all they're saying. They're not saying they support abortion. But here's how we get in this Republican spin, right? We get in this Republican spin that because they create all this division, they want to murder babies. The Democrats support. No, they don't. They support the woman's right to choose. Now, the Republicans are hands off as far as government. We have a small government and no regulation and none of this until you talk about a woman's body, what she should do with her body, her baby. Then you want to regulate. But here's why. Not because the Republicans give a damn about babies, because if they did, they'd be doing something for the ones that are here. I said earlier in the show that you can't find me one Republican policy that they have passed to help poor kids. How about early childhood education? How about the fact that we have 50 million poor African-American kids in this country that's going without food? 1 out of 5 kids go to bed hungry every day. Name me a Republican policy they passed to help the ones that are here. So you complain about kids that are not here, but the ones are here, you ain't doing a damn thing for. That's confusing to me. But you pro-life though. Oh, okay. So here's what it is. So just so you guys know the brief history of it. Prior to 1980, all the pro-life talk was mainly about the death penalty. That's pretty much what it was. It wasn't about anything to do with abortion rights. Well, in 1980, President Ronald Reagan and Vice President Herbert Walker Bush met with the evangelicals, and they made a deal that said, if you switch your argument to pro-life as far as babies, we'll get abortion, we'll get behind you. Because look, here's the deal. When Ronald Reagan was governor of California, he actually signed in a law to allow to expand abortion rights. Republican. He expanded abortion. No, Reagan used to be a Democrat. And then when Lyndon Baines Johnson passed the VRA Voting Rights Act and the CRA, the Civil Rights Act, Reagan and all the other, racist Democrats moved over to the Republican Party. So anyway, Republican, he voted to expand abortion rights prior to his 1980 meeting. Okay, And George Bush was a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. So the Republicans were on board with it. These two major Republicans. They didn't care about abortion rights. They didn't care about that. But they wanted the power of the evangelical base. So that's why they switched to this pro-life stuff. Okay? That's why they switched to this. It wasn't because they cared about black folks and I say even poor white people or Latinos having abortions. Okay? That wasn't why that's not why the Republicans historically started this abortion nonsense that they care about. Okay, so that's what it was. It was a political. It was a political deal. It was a business decision. By the way, maybe that's a better word. It was a business decision. Not that they cared. So you have to understand the history of it, so you don't get played. Okay, so because look, as I say and I say over and over again, if you cared about black people, brown people, middle class, poor class having abortions, or because they don't feel they can financially handle the baby, some just don't want it, and some people they're scared financially because their financial situation. That's what a lot of people have abortions for, right? I can't afford this baby. I don't want to. Then you would pass policies to help those people, and you won't pass not one. Your policy is where your heart is, right? Your voting record. Okay. So anyway, that's that. So let me go off into another part. The reason why I gotta switch something over here really quick, guys. Hold on a minute. I'm talking. So the reason why I started there is because I want to go into the death penalty. All right. So and this is like the first time I ever really talked about the death penalty. But I feel it's such a significant time. Because we got this young man. Let me get over here real quick. Yeah, Brandon Bernard, who was executed. Let me share my screen with you guys. Hold on, guys. Okay, let's see. I'm sharing two screens. Hold on, man. Give me 1 second. Okay, no, that was the wrong share. Hold on, guys. Give me 1 second. That was the wrong share. That was the wrong share. Let me share screen. Give me 1 second. Anyway, I'm going to this Chrome tab. Yeah. Let me also let me do it one at a time. Okay, no problem. Okay, I thought let me share the whole thing. All right, so anyway, now you guys see my screen. All right, cool. So this kid here, Brandon Bernard, yeah, here he is. Brandon Bernard. So here's the thing with this. Oh, I don't got you guys on. Now you can see it. Okay, so here you go. So this guy Brandon Bernard was executed the other day. And he was convicted in I think it was 99. It was a murder robbery or murder kidnapping, something like that. Well, at the time that this young man did this, he was 40, he was murdered. But he was 18 when he did the crime. So here's the deal. 18 years old, okay, when he committed the crime. So based on that, he's the youngest person in 70 years to be, executed because they committed a crime when they were barely 18. We had just turned 18. I think like back in the teens, like this is about 1915, 1920, they executed a 10-year-old boy because he whistled at a white woman. Actually strapped this kid up you can look it up. They actually strapped this little boy up to the electric chair. He was too small to even fit on the electric chair and just cooked him. There was a movie about it and everything. So anyway, so here's these pro-life Republicans. And the reason I'm going into this is because you can't be, if you're doing based on Christian principles, okay, you can't be pro-life in one area and not be pro-life in the other. Okay, you have to be against the death penalty if you're a real Christian. There's so many fake Christians out there. You have to be against the death penalty. You have to be. Because God says do not judge. You do not have, as a Christian, you don't have the ability to take somebody's life. That's just what it is. God's supposed to judge. not man. That's what it is. So the Republicans are so concerned about pro-life, but yet, and I'm going to show you a little bit later how the Republican states, like Texas, are leading the nation in executions with 545, but yet you claim to be pro-life. Wow, that just seems a little bit hypocritical to me. And I'm not talking about from a carnal standpoint. Look, if someone that kills somebody I love, I don't want to kill them. But hey, my hypocrisy only goes so far. But I'm not claiming to be, jumping for Jesus either, or Yahshua. That's his original name, Yahshua. But I love him though. I love God and have a relationship with God. I'm just saying is, I ain't that holy. That's what I'm trying to say. So with that being said, but if you are this Bible-toting Christian that's worried about babies in the womb, then you have to worry about the living too. That's just right. And we had this kid that was just executed. He had Kim Kardashian, the DEA, people who were actually on his case, the jurors, all called for him not to be executed. What did Trump do? Allow him to be executed. Okay. So these are Republicans, because Trump is too busy. Trump don't care about this young man dying. What he cares about is the fact he lost the election and imparting himself and all his cronies and everybody else. Okay. So in regards to the death penalty, from a federal standpoint, so let's take a brief look at it. The death penalty was reenacted by the Supreme Court in 1988. In 1988, it was reenacted, the death penalty. From 1988 until Trump took office, you know how many executions there have been from a federal level? 3. The last one was Timothy McVeigh under George Bush in 2003. Since Trump has been in office, he's executed 13 people. 13 people. So here's what's kind of funny here. Well, not funny, but it's a coincidence. On the backdrop of the George Floyd murder, and we had all this anti-racism stuff and Black Lives Matter and people protesting and all this other stuff. All the people who were lined up to be executed were white men. Yeah, they were white men. Absolutely. Now that's died down. There's 5 people that are slated to be executed. Some of them are not executed until 21. But Trump expedited their execution to be done before he leaves office. Okay. 5 of them are black. No, I'm sorry. 4 of them are black men. Well, one's already been executed. And there's one that's coming up this week or so. It might be done this week. If I can remember. But there's 5 black men and 1 white lady that's scheduled to be executed. Now, traditionally, here's what happens: is the outgoing president will stay clear of executions to allow the incoming president to do it. That's traditionally how it happens. Because at the end of the day, you're leaving office. You don't want to leave the office with a bunch of executions under your belt. So you just kick that can down the road, which makes sense. I mean, that's what I do if I was president. Look, these people some of them did some heinous crimes, and they should never, ever get out of jail. But the question is, why are you speeding up their execution? 4 of them are black. Okay. There's something seriously wrong with that. But that's what he's doing. Trump is also, now I'm gonna pull up his article. I'm gonna share my screen again. Let's see, so I'm gonna share my screen again. I'm gonna pull up his article, you guys. See tab. Trump. See, the thing of it is we have to worry about Trump. So here's one of the things. So Trump, this is one of the things I want to go into some of the bad things that Trump is doing in far as of execution, as far as concerned, is Trump has actually, let me go over here real quick. Okay. So here's an article I was looking at, that Trump is actually, Trump is actually doing is he's actually granted the states, the federal prisons, they're in states, obviously, but he's actually granted them more powers to execute it. He actually signed off on allowing them to bring back the firing squad. Can you believe it? Bring back the firing squad? Are you for real? It's right here in the article. It says right here. It says Trump administration has already approved alternative ways for the death row inmates to be killed other than lethal injection. And the reason being, there was a bunch of hoopla about the lethal injection. The states now are allowed to include methods like poisonous gas and firing squads to carry out death sentences, officially allowing the change with the phase another manner prescribed by the law of the states which the sentence was imposed. So in other words, I'm going down here. So in other words, Donald Trump is allowing states to do firing squads. Oh man, that's gangster right there. So here's other things he's doing before he leaves office. That's one of the things I want to parlay into. Putting a cap on visa limits, immigration. He's made asylum much harder. Here's an article you guys can look at. Revising the food stamp eligibility, making it hard to get food stamps in the SNAP program in the actually middle of a pandemic. Workers are more likely to be claimed independent contractors than employees now. That benefits the corporation because they don't have to pay benefits. They don't have to pay workers' comp insurance. Here it is, restricting asylum eligibility. Barring transgender people, all kinds of stuff he's doing. See, these policies can be very, very painful and restrictive to the incoming administration. But you're dealing with a guy who's got his panties in an uproar, and I should say that very lightly. But that's pretty much what it is. So you have to understand that Donald Trump is he's a wounded cat, so to speak. So here's what's dangerous. The president has the ability to declassify information. So Trump can actually declassify information and put it out in the public, which can put a national security threat. He also can burn records. Look, you have all the communication he did with Russia that he wouldn't allow a third party in, the note taker in, and what he did with Kim Jong-un, the Mueller investigation, all that stuff. He can destroy all those records, that's what he's probably trying to do, get all the records because he didn't want anybody to see what he was doing. And I believe it was 1988, or it might be 1998, where it had the law that was passed. I think it was the President Information Act. And the President Information Act said that all the notes and information that the president has did not belong to him. It belongs to the United States. Okay, that's who it belongs to. It doesn't belong to him. And he's not supposed to keep that information. He's supposed to give it to, I guess the CIA or FBI or national security. All that information stays in house with top security clearance. Well, Trump would never allow anybody to take notes in his meetings. And so we don't know what he was talking to Russia about, or what exactly were the trade talks with China? Exactly what deals did he make with China? We know his family's doing business over in China. So we don't, he's not a man of paper, you know what I mean? So these are all the things that this man, technically can do before he's leaving office, and probably is going to do it, pardoning himself. Now, why we're in the middle of a pandemic and the economy's in a tailspin, and there are 4 people on the execution block that he could put a stay on that, he's sitting up here crying about the election and talking about pardoning himself. The hell with everybody else. He wants to pardon himself. Now, nobody knows. The president has broad powers when it comes to pardoning. He has really broad powers, but there's never been tried for somebody to pardon himself. And I think the Constitution talks about that you cannot be a judge and jury in your own case, but he could try, and we'll see what happens. I mean, and there's just a number of things he can do in these last, we got almost about 40 days before he leaves office. There's a lot of things he can do. But what I think he's going to do is just worry about pardoning everybody. Okay, so anyway, enough of Donald Trump. I want to get on I want to get back on the death penalty really quick here. So, my son was talking about, Republicans and pro-life. Well, if you look at, I'm gonna take you to this screen here. I'm gonna show you my other screen. Let me share my screen with this particular one. Hold on a minute. Tab here. Let's see. Here you go. Here you go. Okay. Now you guys see my states. So Republicans have executed the most people. Okay. So I'm just gonna go to number one. But if you look here, these are all red states. Texas, highest number of executions. Next on the list is Virginia. Next on the list, Oklahoma, a red state. Next on the list, Florida, a red state. These are highest number of executions. Next on the list, Missouri, Georgia, Alabama, and it goes on and on and on and on. Ohio, these are all red states. It goes on. Well, Ohio was blue this year. North Carolina, South Carolina, Arizona, Arkansas. Okay, so you got all these states here that and again, the numbers don't lie. You claim that you're pro-life, but yet you have the highest number of executions. Now, when you look at the murder rate in Texas, Texas had the highest number of murders in 2018, right behind California. So their death penalty is not stopping people from murdering. These are 2018 stats. Let me see. I'm gonna share these with you. You guys can see it. You guys won't think I'm just, let me see if I have it in here. Well, let's see. Let me see. Yeah. All right. Let me share this with you guys. So you guys can see yourself that Texas, even though they have the highest number of murders, they don't have. It's not like their death penalty is stopping people from killing. So here it is. And let me see. And let's see. Yeah, here's a Yahoo article. I'm gonna share this with you real quick. So number one is Mississippi. Here's the full world atlas. Highest number of murder rates. Let me see here. Let me go out to the bottom. So you got Mississippi, Louisiana. These are all red states. They have the highest number of murders, but also the highest number of killings, death penalties. So here it is. So let's go down here, and I'm talking about Texas because that's where my son lives, right? So Texas has 1,557 murders in 2018, and California had 1,089. But again, California, that's why Texas is higher per murders per 100,000 than California, is because of course California is more populated than Texas. So that's why that is. So anyway, Texas is killing the most people. So these are the red states. So they talk about death penalty and being oh, here it is, guys. So talk about being pro-life, but yet you have the most murder. The Texans, they rack them, stack them, and burn them. That's what Texas does. So look, you look at the South, right? So this is the thing, y'all, about this stuff. South is the Bible Belt. So in other words, you got churches on every corner. These big, huge mass churches in the South. And they got the highest number of murders and the most executions. And these are in the South, and those are all the Christian states. Now you got some in the Midwest too, obviously, but you got a lot of them that are in the South. And these are supposed to be these Christians that are killing the most people as far as literature. Now look, they committed crime, they deserve to pay the price. But from a Christian point of view, you're not supposed to be killing people. So are you really pro-life? Are you really pro-life? It's very hypocritical. So I just had to point that out because you can't be look, we got to stop using Christianity and religion and politics when it's best for us. That's really what it's all about. I don't really know how many people really care about the greater good. What people really care about is this is what benefits my party, or this gives me the opportunity to talk about somebody else. or it's an ego thing or a power thing or whatever it is, or in some cases a race thing, because you got the majority of parties or Republican parties are white men, and the majority of people in Democrat are black. Majority of black folks in the Democrat Party are black. I'm sorry. So then it becomes, a race thing, a power thing, a party thing. So we keep using this God stuff as far as the Republicans talk about, pro-life and pro-choice. Okay, so I just had to point out about Republicans. Any Republican, fine. You're right, and you're right, and the Republicans really don't care. You're right. They don't, because you have executed. Texas has executed more people than any other state in the union by far, and you got more churches and more so-called Christians in Texas than any other state in the South, because Texas is the biggest state in the South. By far. So you got, as I showed the stats, you got Alabama and Florida and all these Bible Belts, Christian states are killing the most people. But the Christian religion has killed the most people than any other religion, because Christianity is the most widely practiced Christianity in the world. But they're pro-life. I got you. No, you're not. No, you're not. Actually, the Republicans are pro-choice too. They pro-choose to pick what part of life they want to save. That's what it is. Because you don't give a damn about the ones that are here. Again, I'll say it again. You don't give Republicans, you talk about the babies that are in the womb, but you don't give a damn about the ones that are here, because you ain't doing a damn thing for them. So don't tell me that pro-life stuff. Look, I might have been born during the day, but damn sure wasn't yesterday. I can read, and the policies show it is clear that you don't give a damn. So we need to stop this pro-life, pro-life bullshit that Republicans are saying. It's all a bunch of bullshit in the day. So I'm really concerned about these 4 black men that are going to be executed. Trump can put a stay on that. What happened to Trump caring about black folks? What about the platinum plan? Oh, where'd the platinum plan go? Now that Trump is lost, he has been pretty much absent. Now you're seeing who he really is, right? Since he's lost the election, all he's done was come up with this bullshit conspiracy theories about him being defrauded or it being a fraud, when he was claiming that before the election even happened. See, he's so stupid that because he claimed fraud, the election, the head of election security and, people overshot, and all the election officials around the state got real secure. They got on their game because he was claiming it was going to be a fraud election. He should have just shut up. Then he'd be able to claim fraud after, right? But since he claimed fraud, everybody got on their game. They short up all their systems, so they can't prove fraud. Now you got this shit show with these 106 cowards in the state of Texas that signed on to overthrow our democracy, but it ain't gonna happen. But they did. The Republicans are cowards. I mean, you know that Donald Trump has hijacked the Republican Party, and none of them are man enough to speak up. And you know this clown is wrong. You know he's wrong, but you scared to speak up. So anyway, that's my take on the Republican and politics. And look, I had to go into, because my son was talking about this, and I don't want to go too much further into that, Christianity and politics. But look, because he and I think when he said, give me a Christian quality about the Republican Party, about the Democratic Party, I'm like, I don't look for the government to be Christians. I look at the government for what its practice. I look at for what its policies. And from the 256 years that the government has been in existence, they have not shown one Christian policy. Y'all know some? Because I read history, not his story. And history said we raped Africa and colonized America. I don't see where the Christianity is at. The history book says that we put a people 256 years in captivity and made them work from Kansas Day to Kansas night for free, and then beat them, raped them, castrated them, set them on fire. When they didn't work in inhumane conditions, from 13 hours a day. Then you sell us to doctors to cut open and experiment on. You feed black babies to alligators, and that's where the term alligator bait came from. They used to play hit the nigger on the head, and they used to put babies' heads inside of a wall with a hole in it, and they used to throw rocks at the baby's head and try to kill them. The KKK lynched over 7,000 black people. Jim Crow, redlining. These were all government. These were all privately orchestrated, but government promoted or mandated, while government idly sat by. So I'm still trying to understand where the Christianity is in this government. And that's both Democrats and Republicans. They both have a hand in this. So I don't, because I've read history books, I don't look for Christian principles in the government on either party. I look for you to cast policies that are not going to break me down or not going to get in the way of my progress. That's it. I'm not looking for you to hold a higher Christian or higher religious ground. And I think that anybody's doing that, you're quite naive and you're going to be very, very disappointed. Yeah, Aaron, that's my cousin. He said, yeah, they talk about pro-life while sterilizing Latinos. Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, you talk about pro-life and everything else, but you're really not. If you were pro-life, look, the Republicans, let me step back here a little bit in history before I wrap this up, let you guys go. The Republicans really hadn't passed a policy to help people of color or help people's life since 1870. And that was the 15th Amendment. Okay, that gave black folks, I think that was when it gave black folks citizenship. That was the last thing the Republicans passed. Or was it the Voter Rights Act? I think the 15th Amendment was allowed people to vote. I could be wrong. I think it allowed people to vote because then in 1870, Mississippi came with grandfather clauses and wouldn't allow black people to vote. So I think it was allow people to vote from a really, really external Christian level. I mean, racist level, because then we had to pass the Voting Rights Act in 1965 to get the 15th Amendment guts to allow us to actually be able to vote. So that was the last time the Republicans did it. So arguably, you could say in 1870, so you got 150 years, 150 some odd years, whatever that is. The only thing the Republicans done to help minorities is this. In 1975, Ford or 74 voted to expand the VRA, the Voting Rights Act, to make it bilingual. So for Indians, Latinos, and Asians. So all the Asians and Latinos and every other race that can deal with that, have election documentation and election voting stations that are bilingual, was expansion of the Voter Rights Act that black people fought for. Yeah, you don't know that, or they don't care to know. In 2003, I believe it was, Bush voted to continue the Voting Rights Act for another 25 years. The son Bush. That's pretty much it for the Republican Party, to help people of color or to help or to promote pro-life. That's it. And I'm being nice. I just know that, and because I'm unbiased. I'm independent. I'm not either in no party. But that's really all you can find. Hey, if you can find anything else, I'm an easy man to find. I'm always on Facebook, because this is not about people. It's about principle and it's about policy. Okay, the policies that the Republicans do not support pro-life, except when it comes to abortion. And as I mentioned before, that's because they need the power of the evangelicals, Paula Devil White and Kenneth Grimblin Copeland. Yeah, I showed on my show last week when Paula White was praying. Paula White, this hoe. Look, check this out. I heard from a very good source that Paula White ain't nothing but a hoe. Okay, I'm telling you, I'm just being honest with you. I heard she done seen more wieners than Oscar Mayer. But she be up there, praising God. See, this is the problem with Christianity. You got too many of these hypocrites. But she was praying for Trump to win. Trump had already lost the election. Doesn't the Bible say, obey the law of the land? She up here praying. And I showed it last week. But she's up here playing Africa. Angels coming from Africa. I hear the angels coming from Africa. I hear the angels coming from Africa. I hear the angels coming from South America. I kid you not. This is what she said in her prayer. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You backing the orange devil that call the African countries shithole countries. All right. You call Mexicans rapists and murderers. But when Donald Trump needs help, you're calling from angels from Africa and South and Central America. I'm wondering, why do you call angels from Europe? How about Norway? Okay. How about Australia? How about Belgium? Why are you calling angels from them? Why, when you need help, this devil, I call them Evan devils. Why are you calling angels from a black country? But you know what? God did send angels from Africa. And that's why his orange ass lost. God did answer. So accept it and move the hell on. And then you had Kenneth Copeland, another Evan devil that didn't respect the law of the land. He's in his church talking about Biden won the election, ha, 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 making a joke out of it. As a pastor, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. But he did it anyway. Anyway, enough of that. Enough of them clowns. They ain't nothing but clowns. And if you're a Christian and you support them and send them money, you a damn fool. Because if you read your Bible, the Bible does not say give your money to a man. We have made these. Kenneth Copeland worth $850 million. Paula White is worth, I don't know how much, I think $150 million. And the Bible doesn't say anything about giving these clowns money. Hell, Jesus was broke, but you're going to give these devils money. What's wrong with y'all? What the hell wrong with y'all? Creflo Dollars are one of them. Why in the hell would you go to a church where a pastor's last name is Dollar and ask for a jet and your dumb ass give it to him? Y'all dumb as hell. Dumb. He asked for a jet. And the people in Atlanta, he's mostly black folks. And probably he probably has money coming, through online ministry. But damn, they gave him the money. I tell you what, I'm becoming a pastor. We need to open up a church business, because church is a business. And then it's tax-free too. Oh man. Getting paid, boy. Anyway, I know I got off on a tangent. But yeah, since you guys get my point. Okay, the Republicans. Oh yeah, let me say this real quick. I don't hear any evangelicals, Paula White, Jerry Falwell Jr., Kenneth Copeland, Pat Roberts. I think he's still living, or he might have went to hell already. Swaggart's son, or Jimmy Swaggart. I think he's still living. The one that couldn't keep sleeping with prostitutes. Went before the church, asked for forgiveness, and went right back and got him another hoe. Tell you, boy, these preachers, man. These preachers are gangster. Anyway, I never hear any of them as far as talking about stopping the death penalty. I don't hear none of these Evan devils talk about that. I don't hear none of them. Matter of fact, I don't hear anything talk about pro-life either, about stopping abortion. At least not on national TV. I don't really hear it. But they're not stopping that either. And they are powerful in the South. So anyway, when somebody talk about Republicans pro-life, now y'all got the ammunition. That's what y'all say. That's what y'all say. Republicans don't give a damn about pro-life. They don't give a damn about life, period. They don't care about people. They care about corporations. And they've been that way since 1870. Okay, the history books are there. Just go read them. You guys, that's it. Back next week. I should have my son on. And we're going to continue this conversation in regards to Christians on the left, Christians on the right. Christian policies within the Republican Party, within the Democratic Party, the governor. Is that even possible? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's possible. I don't think it exists. I think you can be a Christian and be involved in the government, no doubt. But to think that our government is going to exercise some Christian principle, I don't see that happening anytime soon, because there'd be a whole lot of change to have to happen. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Kingdomhood Conversation. And next week, we'll do it again, Friday. Peace. Stay safe. Keep your mask on. Watch out for this vaccination that's coming out. Like I said, Pfizer's coming out. They may be having 50 million doses by the end of the year. Do your due diligence. Do your work before you decide to take it. Look at there's 5 other ones that are going to be other companies. Look at which one. Look at the reports. Look at the trials. Look at the, what were the side effects by race, because different black people are top line in hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, and all that stuff. So will this affect you differently than somebody else. African Americans are traditionally low on vitamin D. Will this affect you differently than with somebody who's white? Find out all that stuff for you guys take it. All right. God bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in to Kingdomhood Conversation.